Hello, my name is host Eric, and in this video I'm going to be discussing the notion I just had of understanding capitalism by understanding YouTube, and using YouTube as an example of how time investment and capital work and stuff like that. Okay? So, one of the things you'll hear a lot from people who are advocating a progressive social policy for the government is that it's the regulations, the stuff the government does that makes possible all of the business people who make money out there. You didn't build that business by yourself, right? It took a community to build that business, kind of a thing, right? And that without the government's many services and myriad important roles it plays in the economy, that we'd all be lost. And so the business owes back. It's fair that those who take advantage of the benefits of the American system to make a lot of money, that they give back to the American system, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So let's talk about YouTube. And let's understand what it means to own a business by looking at talking with famous people, the YouTube channel. So, first of all, it began as a labor of love. For sure. I never believed it would make any money, really. I just had some vague notions that empowered me to express myself as I wanted to. What I really wanted to do was express myself. I've been shut down for a long time and been prevented from expressing myself for a long time and actively discouraged for a long time. And so I really wanted to express myself. And that's what I did. Okay? YouTube is a great platform because they didn't charge me for the privilege of doing it here. They let me do it for free. Now, eventually, it turns out that I became useful to them as well. But note that I wasn't at first. They were taking a chance on me. They could say, listen, until you earn money here on YouTube, then you have to pay to be a creator here on YouTube. They could do that. It would be a stupid decision, but they could. Anyway, they let me play here for free, and eventually they were right. Their choice to let me play here for free became useful to them as well. As I started generating at least some viewership, then it made it probably worth the cost of the server space I take up, you know? Now, talking with famous people is pushing up on 800 subscribers pretty soon, and eventually, and right now we're making $60 a month, which sounds like not very much. To me, it sounds like a dream come true. Fucking dream come true. For sure, because it's never about the money, right? It's always about the fact that you'll have to excuse my poor FI, please. I will stop experiencing emotions now. Good. Okay. So, yeah, it was just about I needed to get shit off my chest, basically, and I felt as though I had things people might be interested in hearing, and I was going to take a chance that the voices in my life telling me, no, you do not, Eric, were wrong. So that's why I continue to do it more than any other reason, is because I need to express myself, and I want to do so in a healthy way that includes other people, and hopefully that other people enjoy. You know, I want people to like my media. I want people to like me. So that's why I do it. But note, that I have current predictions on the blocks here, and they're public predictions because I want to be able to be held accountable for when it's inaccurate. If I want credit for when it's accurate, then I got to be willing to be like, yeah, I was wrong when it's inaccurate. So the prediction is this: I think that once I pass 1,000 subscribers, once we pass 1,000 subscribers, it'll take 1 month to go from 1,000 to 50,000. That's my prediction. It's based on my mechanisms behind which I'm making the decisions about quantity, right? So now I started to, if we were thinking about this purely as a business model, having made all the disclaimers about it not being all about the money, but if we did think about it purely as a business model, my business model was, okay, Eric, what you should do is invest X number of hours into this YouTube channel, and basically your strategy is, if I just invest endless amounts of time and energy into it and try to make all that time and energy manifest as objects that have even the teeniest amount of value, then those objects will, because they're part of a closed set called Talking with Famous People, that they will add value to each other increasingly the more of them that there are, and that as a consequence, the value of something long term persists a little bit, a fraction of its initial value perhaps, but it's persistent over the long haul the same, and that those values go up the more of them that there are, and the longer the time stretches out, as long as you continue adding to the pile. That's my theory, okay? So in conjunction with that is this notion that, that the Google results affect you differently once you get to 1,000 subscribers, and that there's going to be a big boost from that, and that's what I'm sort of counting on, and I could be publicly and obviously mistaken about it a month after we get to 1,000. We will get to 1,000 at some point. And I'm going to do a bunch of stats videos when we do it, so I can show everybody what happens. I want everybody to see. Everything's fucking transparent around here. And anyway, where am I going with this? I'm going to the fact that at some point, Talking with Famous People is going to make money. Right now I'm making $60 a month. We are, Zach and me, splitting it more or less in some split, okay? So we've got a split of ownership and a split of profits, and that's stuff that I'm not going to get too specific about because it's not just my stuff, it's his stuff too. So I'm not going to get specific about his financial details, and he can do that if he wants to, okay? But there are only two people who have an ownership interest in Talking with Famous People are me and Zach, and that's it. It's based on arrangements I made with them back when it was not coming together very quickly at all. So he helped with that considerably, and he turned out to be right about the direction of things. He was right about the roundtable discussions. And it's interesting how it plays out. But regardless, at some point it's going to pay off. If I'm making $60 a month now, then, and we have, let's say, 800 subscribers almost. So you're looking at like $10 for 100 subscribers almost, not quite, okay. Well, let's say we get to 1,000 and I'm making $80 a month. Let's just say 100, make it easy math. Let's just pretend. Well, 50,000 then is going to be 50 times 100. That's 5,000 a month. Now you're starting to look at a substantial boost to one's income, in terms of, or for somebody like Zach, a good starting income in life. That's not bad to start out with. If we, let's say we're splitting it in half, right? 2,500, $5,000 a month, then that's a fair amount of money. You double that, you're looking at $10,000 a month. Well, shit. I mean, that's a good chunk of change. What do you need to get 10 grand a month? My theory is you need 100,000 subscribers. If 1,000 subscribers makes $100 a month, then 100,000 subscribers makes $10,000 a month. Now, the question becomes, how much of that money does the government deserve? Let's look at the traditional arguments. Number one, somehow it's gauche to complain about paying taxes if you're doing well. But remember, nobody gave me anything when I was doing poorly, right? When I was doing Talking with Famous People for, putting hours and hours and hours into it and having very few views and getting, I was so excited the first time I got 1/10 of 1 cent, right? So, if anybody's going to tax me, shouldn't it be YouTube? Oh, they already do, right? It's called, they set up a platform that profits both of us. It's win-win. It's win-win. They get their cut. That's different than a tax. It's a cut. They deserve a cut, right? Without YouTube, I'd have nothing. I deserve a cut. They deserve the bulk of it. Of course they do. Without the platform, there'd be nothing. It's indisputably true. I could try to make my own in-house community kind of a thing. I can certainly try to, and will try to, have a lot of cross-pollination between the TwFP webpage and the TwFP YouTube channel. But at the end of the day, I need the platform. Okay, so you might argue, if you're a statist, that the government platform is what allows YouTube to exist. Well, okay, but then we've positioned at this point the government as somebody other than ourselves. That's another competing entity that deserves a cut. Right? They're a business. Except there's nothing consensual. There's nothing consensual about the government taking the taxes. It's not win-win. They're not getting a cut because they're doing anything for me on an ongoing basis, right? So is it true that we individuals need to say, hey guys, let's come up with some good ways to protect ourselves? That's true. Let's make sure that, let's all agree that it's a good idea for us all to build infrastructure that we can all profit from by sitting on top of. It should cost X amount. Yeah, that's what government's supposed to be in a self-governing democracy, right? It's supposed to be us all chipping in to something that helps us all. If, in fact, you want to make the argument that without the government, its regulations, its infrastructure and such, that I wouldn't be able to make any money on YouTube, therefore, as soon as I do make money on YouTube, I have to give them some money. How does that play out with when I'm not making any money on YouTube? Do I get to demand money? But it's not fair, Eric, that you put in all those thousands and thousands of hours without getting paid anything. They're not paying you even remotely the minimum wage. What in the world? Somebody needs to force YouTube to give you some money so that you can continue to make YouTube videos for free. Do they? Is that true? Now, what if I actually had no other sorts of income, or very little other sorts of income, and I was poor? I was like, trying to get by. Fuck, how am I going to pay the internet? But I'm investing all my time in this. That's why I'm not getting a lot of money, because I know it's going to pay off, right? Now, I am choosing to take a risk in that situation. That's not my situation, but let's say it were. I'm choosing to take a risk, and I'm choosing to endure the hardships associated with being low income now, because I'm engaged in an investment opportunity, entrepreneurship kind of a thing, because I'm convinced that my work will pay off. Those are the sort of gambles that average Americans take every day. Not just me, everybody. All over the country, people think average Americans take those kind of gambles. Like, look, I know I'm working at a job, but I'm going to start selling these things I make on Etsy too. And I bet if I put a lot of effort into that, I might be able to work my regular job less. People are doing that all over the country. People trying to make a living on eBay, stuff like that, right? What they are doing is they are putting in their time. Okay? People invest their time on speculation. Nobody's guaranteed that their time investment will pay off. Nobody gets paid for their time investment until it pays off. Why is it that the government doesn't have to do anything active? They don't own anything that I'm working in, right? They don't own YouTube. They don't own the internet. They don't own my computer. They don't own the electricity. They don't own the house I live in. Why is it that they are entitled to a cut? How much of a cut are they entitled to? And why does it depend on how much money I make without considering how much time I invested? So if I had gone into debt to make this happen and started getting a bunch of money, then I have to pay off the debt. So I would be considered to have not made that money, right? So they'd take less. If I were to buy a bunch of stuff, like fancy cameras and things, to use up a good amount of that money, then I'd make less, and they'd take less. But think about it. I invested 98% of the time, 99% of the time, you know. Granted, others participate in the media with me, and they're there too, and they get credit for its success for sure, but that doesn't mean they have ownership of it. Again, I'm providing what I hope is a service they enjoy, which is a chance to come participate in these media projects and stuff like that without any charge at all. I could take a different model. I could be like Chad Crandall and have people buy that service. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not the model I'm taking. So I'm hopeful that individuals who participate continue to feel as though it's worth their time investment for whatever their reasons are, whatever value they get out of it. Maybe personal, maybe, whatever. It could be something they show later to prove to somebody that they're qualified to do some kind of a job. Who knows? If they come off really smart in a certain video, it's possible. But the point is, I put 99% of the time that's been put into the channel has been my effort and time. Okay? Conceptually, the channel's mostly mine with some help from Zachary in terms of what directions it ought to go and stuff. And other people too. Other people give me advice. But ultimately, me pulling the trigger on the decision making, I've invested some money in things. I've invested in shirts. I bought quadrabble.com. I have been talking with things.com. So I invested in the best internet I could get. So I invested money in it. So 99% of the time, not 99% of the value, Zachary's added a lot more value than 1%, but 99% of the time invested is from me. Now, how much of a cut does the government deserve of that work. They did 0% of the work. They did potentially enable the internet. But remember, they're supposed to be us. Hey, let's do something with let's get together and have a group idea here to make us all more able to do our own shit. That's the idea of government. Let's get together here. Let's have a good refereeing system so that we can all be better enabled to do our own shit and not be interfered with by crazy people. That's the purpose of government. Hey, those unfair business practices are preventing me from competing in the marketplace. Government, we need you to referee this. That's the purpose of government. We expect to chip in a little bit to pay for these services. And we call it taxation. We, though. No they. The government is not they. The government is we. If the community's small enough, nobody would be so awful as to say to a farmer who they've seen toiling out in the fields day in and day out and day in and day out and day in and day out, all spring, all summer. Finally, they harvest in the fall. They do it all themselves. They and their two sons or whatever, you know. Nobody who sat there and watched that and experienced the amount of time they put into it could, without being a complete scumbag, walk up to that farmer and say, "Now I will take 1/3 of your crops. They are mine. I will pass them out to everybody. But right now they are mine. I'm in charge of this. The only reason you were able to grow those crops is because I made these roads here. 1/3. Nobody would do that unless they were a sociopath. But you vote for that. You advocate for that. Because you don't understand that money is time plus wisdom in choice making directed towards profit. Well, what about the YouTube channel? She just made 3 videos and they're about how to put on makeup, and she's now making, a million subs, blah, 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 blah. Well, how much responsibility do you have for causing that to happen? 0. Why are you making claims upon her stuff? Well, it's not for me, it's for the poor people. You're the one making the claims upon their stuff. You're saying, I deserve and would be happy to be the one in charge of doing this. If I were king, if I were omnipotent leader, I would be fine walking over to you and saying, I know you just spent every bit of your existence, heart and soul working on this activity here for months and months and years, but I get 1/3 of it. I get 1/3 of all the crops. Do that, though. If you say the rich deserve to be taxed highly or more than poor people, then I want you to do that. You need to think to yourself, I'm okay with being the person to take that from him at gunpoint. I'm going to do it myself. I'm okay with doing it myself. Are you or not? Here's the response. Yeah, but most rich people aren't like that. Okay, here's the thing. There's no such thing as most rich people. There's a bunch of individual human beings, like you and me, some of whom invest many, many thousands of hours into a project, so those projects pay off. Nobody is suggesting that I should be able to demand things of the government while I'm investing my time into a project that might pay off. So why are they suggesting that the government should be able to demand things of me when it does pay off? And how much can they demand given that I did 99% of the work and they did 0, or at least the time? Maybe not the value, right? Not the value, but the time. Can you justify it? Really? Can you really justify taking a third of that for the public good? And saying, you, Eric, you have no say on how that's used, but we're taking a third of it. And we're taking another third in Social Security, which we'll give back to you 30 years from now. Can you justify that? They're not taking anything from me now. Why not? Why aren't they giving me something now then? If they're so invested in making this shit happen, if they get credit for it happening, you didn't build your own business, we built it for you because we're the government. Without us, nothing would happen. If they're so invested in it and making me successful, where are they? Where are the government officials with the cameras and stuff to help me? Where's somebody volunteering from the government to come do my tagging? Zachary doesn't even fucking tag out the videos. I've tagged Zachary's videos too. Who's organizing the playlists? Government? Where are the government helpers? Well, I mean, they get a big cut, so shouldn't they have to do something? Just existing is good enough? Just not providing a world in which I'm able to make money means they're entitled to over half of it? Really? Are you sure? One of the problems we have is that children are raised in school. In school, there's no legitimate economy. It's fake. They spend real time, but they don't do real work and they don't get real rewards. And they learn that that's okay. It's not okay. It's slavery. You have to sit there and do that. Well, how much do you fucking pay me to do it then? Nothing. I'm your teacher. You have to do it. Sounds to me like you're my slave master. I don't want to spend my time here. I don't want to spend my time doing this thing. And you are saying I must. And you are not compensating me. That is called fucking slavery. I don't want to do your little stupid work. So if I'm going to do it, you better pay me. I mean, I have no personal interest in writing an essay on this book. It's not going to benefit me in any way. Well, I was going to teach you how to... I didn't ask you to teach me that, did I? Have I expressed a desire to learn from you this shit that you say I should learn? I don't think so. Am I buying your product right now? No. You aren't even selling me a product. You're what we would call a plunder company. So, in order to justify their ongoing plundering, certain individuals who are in the employ of the government set up these shadow companies that are designed to look like the wisdom of the group surpasses that of the individual because their buildings are big and their titles are officious sounding, their protocols are protocol-y, etc. We got a problem though. Better not let out the fact that there are alternatives that are so much better that nobody would ever choose this over them. So, public schools are one way in which everybody internalizes the notion that work and value aren't linked to each other. In school, they're not. Work and outcome within the closed system are linked to each other. So, okay, if I work harder, maybe I'll get an A. Fine. Maybe you can make that argument that those things are linked. But none of that is linked to actual individuated value making. How does this help me? Why am I doing this thing? Why am I doing this? Why am I smoking a cigarette? I'm smoking a cigarette because it gives me some value in exchange for the behavior and the time that I'm directing towards it. What value does it give me? Satisfies my addiction, satisfies my need to smoke cigarettes, keeps my hand busy, lets me do dramatic pauses in the videos, stuff like that. There's a lot of reasons why I get value from it. Am I making a rational decision to pursue that value in exchange for smoking a cigarette? No, obviously not. It's a habit. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't drop the habit if it didn't provide the value. So if somebody exchanged my cigarettes for cigarettes that tasted just like tobacco cigarettes but didn't have any of the chemicals in them, I would not smoke them. They didn't have any nicotine, didn't have any whatever. I would, if I couldn't find anything other than this suddenly mysteriously non-cigarette cigarette, then I would just quit smoking. There'd be no reason to smoke them. They wouldn't satisfy my need. They wouldn't give me any value. So, in a world that is organized properly, structured properly, in which people are enabled properly, we begin the framing of the universe through the lens that the individual needs to determine his own course, and our duties, and to the extent that we have them towards education and children and such, are the duties of helpers, not bosses. It's the duties of project manager. All right, hey Steve, little Stevie, so how's your identity build coming along? And are you getting any money for that? No? Okay, well, don't let them fuck you. All right, they're gonna play this intern shit for more than another week or two, then you're out of there, because we're gonna get you some place that, you know, respects you enough to give you some percentage of your value in exchange for your labors. Okay, so don't stick with that fucking company but you give it another week. I'm not sure on it yet. Hold off on that. Don't want to fly off the handle. This is the relationship I should be having with my students. They're perfectly capable people. They'll learn the skills by doing them. They do not need direct instruction that requires them to do work for the purpose of them learning something, when they could do work and learn faster that way. It's true. And yet, public schools throughout the country are the predominant form of education. Additionally, the day school, the full day school, is predominant by like 99%. The regular day school. There are structures in place to prevent competitors from outside from demonstrating the superiority of consensual education. So that's why the NSDA has excluded the academies from the national competition going forward, because we won it every year. Why? Well, because we were engaged in consensual education for the most part. I mean, granted, consensual with the parents. Parents are paying us for a reason. Parents have free school for 6 hours a day for their kids. Then they're done and they pay for the real school. The one where they learn more than they do all day at school. They'll learn way more in 2 hours in a week in debate class than they will all week in school. They will, for sure. You're exaggerating, Eric. Nope, not exaggerating. Because debate fundamentally changes their ability to process information. They become able to process it faster, more deeply, and they have a much, much more frame-sensitive understanding of the universe. Now, that's what happens when we let the referees control the league. Guys, we are all players, coaches, team owners, etc. in a basketball league. And the government is the referees, and somehow the referees union has started taking over half the total revenues and taking credit for attendance at the games on the grounds that, well, without us blowing those whistles and making you shoot free throws, there'd be no basketball. That's not true. It would just be too disorderly. There would still be basketball. Basketball is an implicit part of human nature. You're born seeking to score baskets. In other words, you're born wishing to attain value for yourself. That the time you spend in life, you do so because it provides you value. If you're still watching this video, you're doing so because I'm successfully entertaining you enough and you're feeling as though the time is sufficiently well spent that it is giving you enough value in return that you haven't pushed stop yet. Now I'm about to come to an end, so don't push stop now. Okay, so the point about the value thing is this. When we understand that people's time is their value, when we understand that when they choose to direct their time towards wealth generating activities, that their wealth is the time converted into a fungible state where you can use, now that you've done stuff that is purely in the service of others and been rewarded for it with fungible wealth, that is to say money, instead of getting the crops, instead of getting some part of the crops for helping the farmer all summer, he pays you in cash, right? That's the only difference, but that's basically it. We've got the farmer, he's growing all the crops. We've got his helpers, they could get each a little chunk of the, little cut of their crops, right? That could be one way that they structure that, and that'd be fine. So imagine at the end, they're done working, he's got him and his 10 guys, he's got this big pile of crops, like, okay, so I'm going to get the bulk of this because I'm the farmer, I put this whole shit together, and it's my farm, and yeah. But here, you guys each get a fair share. You guys get this much, how much value you put into this process, so you each get you get 5% of the crops, you get 5%, you get 5%, you get 4%, you only were here for half the time, so you get 2.5%, like that, right? And then, homie shows up, who did nothing, and says, whoa, before you start splitting that up, I'm going to take a third of it. Well, why? Well, because none of you would be able to do this without me. You haven't done shit. Yeah, I helped build those roads over there, and I make sure that the barbarians don't come take you over. Well, congratulations. That doesn't mean you get 1/3 of my shit. Right? So, how much value does the government actually put into any wealth generating activity? Think on that question and then ask, how much should the government take from me? When you're thinking about taxes, say this. I believe the government should take X amount of host Eric's profits from talking with famous people. And here's why. That's what, personalize it. Taxes are not this, rich people aren't these fucking random whatever, like evildoers out in the world. They're random people like you and me. Okay? Who maybe their investment paid off or something. Right? They probably put many thousands of hours into it. For you to show up at the end and go, I deserve half of it, is bullshit. No other way to put it. Thanks for watching.